Bootstrap Your Empire, Why Black Women Don't Need Permission to Build Wealth, I want to tell you about someone who's changing the game for Black women entrepreneurs across North America. Her name is Latonya Bradley, and she's not just building businesses, she's dismantling the very systems that told Black women they needed permission to dream big. Latanya has spent her career creating pathways where none existed, opening doors that were deliberately locked, and proving that when you give Black women the resources and recognition they deserve, they don't just succeed, they revolutionize entire industries. Her work has illuminated a truth most of us have been conditioned to ignore. And what she shared with me will challenge everything you thought you knew about entrepreneurship, funding, and who gets to build wealth in this country. We live in a world obsessed with the entrepreneurial dream. We celebrate the startup culture. We glorify the pitch decks, the venture capital rounds, the billion-dollar valuations, the unicorn companies. We're sold this narrative that if you have a brilliant idea and you work hard enough, the money will follow. The investors will come knocking, the doors will swing wide open. But here's what Latonya Bradley revealed to me, and I need you to really hear this. For Black women entrepreneurs, that story, that promise, that American dream is a lie. It's not that Black women lack brilliant ideas, it's not that they don't have the business acumen or the networks or the hustle. The real challenge isn't about capability, it's systemic, it's structural, and it's staggering. Over 80% of Black women entrepreneurs bootstrap their ventures with personal savings. Less than 1%. Let me say that again because I need you to feel the weight of this number. Less than 1% secure venture capital funding. Think about that for a moment. While the startup world is celebrating billion-dollar seed rounds and Series A funding, Black women are building empires from their own bank accounts, their own sacrifices, their own relentless grit. They're not waiting for permission. They're not waiting for some investor in a glass tower to believe in them. They're funding their own dreams because the system has made it brutally clear you're on your own. Now, you might be thinking, well, maybe they just need better business plans. Maybe they're not pitching the right investors. Maybe they need to network more effectively. But that's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps this broken system intact. That's the narrative that allows us to blame the victim instead of interrogating the structure. The data tells a completely different story. Women led startups overall receive just 2.3% of venture capital. For Black women specifically, that number drops to nearly zero. This isn't about merit. This isn't about who has the best pitch or the most polished deck. This is about access. This is about bias. This is about a funding ecosystem that was never, ever designed with Black women in mind. Let me tell you about Arlene Dickinson. Arlene immigrated to Canada from South Africa with nothing but ambition and a dream. She started in sales, working her way up, saving every dollar she could. She saw something the market was missing, a massive gap in multicultural marketing. She understood that authentic storytelling could connect brands with diverse communities in ways traditional marketing never could. She had the vision, she had the strategy, she had the market research. But when Arlene tried to raise capital to launch Remarkable Risk Incorporated in Calgary, Alberta, she hit wall after wall after wall. Investors didn't see the vision. They didn't understand the market. They didn't believe a Black woman could lead a marketing firm to success. So Arlene did what so many Black women are forced to do. She saved aggressively, she bootstrapped, she built her company from the ground up using her own resources, her own money, her own belief in herself when no one else would. Today, Remarkable Risk Incorporated generates multi-million dollar revenue. Arlene became a judge on Dragon's Den, Canada's version of Shark Tank. She's authored bestsellers. She's inspired thousands of Black women to launch their own ventures. But here's what keeps me up at night. She did it all without the venture capital that the startup world tells us is essential for success. She turned limitation into strength. She turned exclusion into innovation. She built an empire that didn't need their approval. And Arlene's story isn't unique, it's the norm. Latonya Bradley introduced me to Tristan Walker, the founder of Walker and Company, which was eventually sold to Procter and Gamble. Tristan saw a problem affecting millions of Black professionals: the complete lack of quality grooming products designed for their specific needs. The beauty industry had ignored this market for decades. So Tristan created Bevel, a line that finally addressed this massive, underserved community. But like Arlene, Tristan faced the brutal reality of venture capital scarcity for Black founders. He couldn't get meetings, he couldn't get callbacks, he couldn't get anyone to take him seriously, so he self funded his initial prototype using personal savings. He built a consumer direct model that completely bypassed the traditional retail biases that had kept products like his off shelves for generations. And despite every odd stacked against him, Tristan eventually raised $34 million, dollars, a feat so rare for Black founders it made headlines, and sold his company for over $30 million. Dollars. His success wasn't just about creating a great product, it was about refusing to accept no. It was about building his own door when every door in front of him was slammed shut. It was about resilience in the face of a system designed to exclude him. Then there's Regina Dugan. Regina rose through the ranks at DARPA and Facebook, navigating spaces where she was often the only Black woman in the room. She reached the highest levels of tech leadership, directing advanced technology projects that shaped the future of innovation. But Regina knew something that many high achieving Black women come to understand. Even when you make it to the top, the system still isn't built for you. So she left. She founded Wellville Incorporated, a health tech company in Silicon Valley focused on biointegrated technology. But Regina faced what Latonya Bradley calls the double burden: being a woman in tech, where women make up only 33% of the workforce, and being a Black woman, where the barriers multiply exponentially. Women in tech are 1.6 times more likely to be laid off than men. Only 5% of women of color ever reach the C suite. The broken rung isn't just a corporate buzzword, it's a lived reality. Regina leveraged her personal networks and her own savings to seed her venture. She emphasized diversity, equity, and inclusion in every pitch, knowing that women venture capitalists are twice as likely to fund women led startups. Today, Wellville has secured partnerships with Google and is advancing bio-integrated technology that could transform healthcare for millions. These stories reveal something counterintuitive, something that challenges everything we've been taught about entrepreneurship. The lack of venture capital funding isn't just a barrier for Black women entrepreneurs. In many ways, it's become a hidden source of strength. When you can't rely on external investors, you learn to be resourceful in ways others never have to be. You learn to build lean. You learn to prioritize sustainability over hype. You learn to trust your own vision instead of bending to someone else's metrics or timelines. But let's not romanticize this reality. Let's be very clear about what's actually happening here. Bootstrapping isn't a choice for most Black women entrepreneurs. It's a necessity born out of systemic exclusion. And the cost is real, and it's devastating. While their white male counterparts are raising millions to scale quickly, to hire teams, to dominate markets, Black women are working second jobs, they're draining savings accounts, they're sacrificing personal security, health, relationships, and peace of mind just to keep their businesses alive. The playing field isn't level, it never has been. And pretending otherwise is a disservice to every Black woman grinding in the margins. And it's not just about funding. Latonya Bradley opened my eyes to another brutal reality: the broken rung. For every 100 men promoted to manager, only 82 Black women advance. This isn't about qualifications. This isn't about performance reviews or leadership potential. This is about bias. This is about who gets mentored, who gets sponsored, who gets seen as leadership material. Black women are stuck at entry and mid levels, watching less qualified colleagues climb past them year after year. And when they do break through to leadership, they face isolation, microaggressions, tokenism, and the constant exhausting pressure to prove they belong. Add to that the economic headwinds that disproportionately impact Black women. Black women face an unemployment rate of 7.1%, significantly higher than the national average. In tech, where so many opportunities for wealth creation exist, layoffs have devastated women, with 69.2% of tech layoffs affecting women. The system isn't just indifferent to Black women's success, it's actively, structurally working against it. So, why am I telling you all of this? Why am I laying out these statistics that might feel overwhelming or even hopeless? Because here's what Latonya Bradley taught me, and it's the most important thing I want you to take away today. Despite all these barriers, despite the lack of funding, despite the broken rung, despite the layoffs and the bias and the systemic exclusion, Black women entrepreneurs are not just surviving, they're thriving. Entrepreneurship rates among Black women are rising faster than any other demographic. They're launching businesses at record rates. They're creating jobs. They're building generational wealth. They're transforming entire communities. This is what resilience looks like when it's not performative. This is what innovation looks like when it's born out of necessity. This is what happens when you stop waiting for a system to change and you start building your own system from scratch. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, and I need you to stay with me. If we truly want to support Black women entrepreneurs, we can't just celebrate their resilience and move on. We can't just applaud their strength and call it a day. We have to dismantle the barriers that make that superhuman resilience necessary in the first place. We have to ask the hard questions. Why does venture capital flow so freely to some founders and not others? Why does the broken rung exist? And what are we actively doing to dismantle it? Why are Black women still fighting for a seat at tables they built with their own hands? Latonya Bradley's work isn't just about entrepreneurship, it's about justice, it's about liberation, it's about creating a world where Black women don't have to be superhuman just to succeed. It's about softness, rest, and the radical freedom to build without constantly fighting for survival. It's about the soft girl era, where strength isn't measured by how much you can endure, but by how much joy, peace, abundance, and ease you can create in your life. So here's my challenge to you, and I want you to really sit with this. What if your next big breakthrough doesn't start with a pitch deck? What if it starts with your savings account, your courage, and your refusal to wait for permission? What if you stopped waiting for investors to validate your vision and started validating it yourself? What if you bootstrapped past every gatekeeper, whoever told you no, and built your legacy entirely on your own terms? And if you're someone with access, with capital, with influence, with power in these systems, what if you used it differently? What if you opened doors instead of guarding them? What if you funded the Arlenes, the Tristans, the Reginas before they have to drain their life savings? What if you mentored, sponsored, and promoted the Black women in your organization who are stuck on that broken rung, watching everyone else rise? What if you stop being complicit in a system that extracts value from Black women's labor while denying them the resources to build their own wealth? Because here's the truth Latonya Bradley taught me, and it's a truth that will set you free if you let it. You don't need permission to build your empire. You don't need venture capital to validate your vision. You don't need a seat at their table when you can build your own. What you need is courage. What you need is resourcefulness. What you need is the willingness to bet on yourself when the entire world won't. The soft girl era isn't about doing less, it's about doing what matters on your terms with your resources for your legacy. It's about releasing the cape of constantly proving yourself to systems that were never built for you. It's about embracing the softness of trusting your own path, even when it's unconventional, even when it's lonely, even when no one else understands it. This week, I want you to take one to your bold step. Open a separate savings account dedicated solely to your business idea. Cut one unnecessary expense and redirect that money toward your dream. Reach out to one person who can help you move forward, not for their money, but for their wisdom, their network, their belief in you. Write down one boundary you're going to set to protect your time, your energy, your vision. Because the gatekeepers aren't going to let you in. So stop waiting. Bootstrap past them. Build a legacy so undeniable it doesn't need their approval. Build something so powerful it changes the rules of the game entirely. The future doesn't belong to those with the most funding. It belongs to the bold, the self funded, the resilient, the ones who refuse to wait for permission. The future belongs to Black women who decided their vision was worth betting everything on. The future belongs to you. Now go build it.